Hey, this is the Entertainment Advice Channel. What I want to talk about today is the topic of how to come up with good character designs, okay? So, when it comes to coming up with good character designs, what I mean by that is being able to create character designs that other people like, okay? And that is the truth, okay? So, if you're creating character designs, whether through drawing, like if you want to create 2D art, or you're using 3D art, whatever, for that matter, to be quite honest with you, whatever way you prefer it to be, okay, to choose to be quite blunt and honest with you, figuring out how to make something people like is obviously a top priority, and that is exactly what you will be learning, what you should focus on, at least for this video, okay? So now that I mentioned that, let's get started. So when it comes to figuring out what character designs people like, the first thing to focus on is color, okay? And not just color, more specifically color scheme, okay? Because the truth of the matter is, when you are creating something other people like, okay, and especially when it comes to character designs, or I should say at least character designs being a good example, the truth of the matter is figuring out how what people like is a hard thing to do, okay? So the way you would figure it out, of course, and just making assumptions, is you have to notice patterns. In other words, observations, okay? You have to kind of catch on to what people like, okay? Which, if you obviously take the smart way, which is the way I'm recommending for this video, you would share your artwork online in order to, of course, to be quite blunt and honest with you, figure out, to be quite honest with you, okay? To be honest with you, of course, what people like. In other words, if you didn't get what I was saying before, you actually just share your artwork online to people to get a better idea of what people like, okay? So, of course, now that I've mentioned that, one of the questions that, of course, is going to come up is, what things should you focus on when it comes to figuring out what people like, okay? And there's actually a few specific examples I definitely have for this video, okay? The first one is like I was getting at before, is color scheme, okay? So what color scheme is that it is, of course, figuring out the type of colors that go well together, to be honest with you, okay? Like anything in the world, you will realize there's a pattern to what people like, just like there's a pattern to literally everything, okay? You will notice people will like maybe certain colors together. Like, for example, you might say people might like blue and green together more than they might like blue and orange together, okay? Easy example right there, okay? Or maybe they might like red and, let's just say, blue together versus like red and purple together, okay? You see what I'm saying? There is a bit of a pattern you need to focus on if you are figuring out how to make something people actually like, okay? And figuring out how to create a color scheme that people like when it comes to character designs, let alone for anything you're creating for animation. But specifically in this case, of course, character design is one of the most important things you have to do, because color is extremely important, as it helps grab people's attention first and foremost, as well as just the fact that it looks good, for that matter, okay? So to sum things up, you need to focus on creating color schemes that look well together. So when you post videos of or images, whatever, of your work, you might notice that certain color schemes people like more than other ones. So observe what color schemes people like, okay? And that's the first point, okay? Now the second point, of course, is figuring out what themes people like, okay? Like, specifically when it comes to themes, what I mean is that, like, what type of animals do people like, okay? The most, okay? Because the truth of the matter is, when you're making characters, you might notice that certain particular animals are more liked than other animals, okay? Let's just say you are putting a certain type of animal on, like, a character, okay? For whatever type of storyline or whatever it is, whatever you can think of, okay? You get the point, okay? Like, whatever thing you can think of, okay? You will notice that certain animals people would like more than other ones. Like, for example, sharks would probably be one of the best designs to use on a character, okay, versus maybe something like, for example, like a fox. A lot of people love sharks. How many people do you hear are crazy about foxes, okay? Or maybe you might also notice that certain animals, like aside from like dragons, obviously the easiest one, specifically Asian dragons, are well liked, and just in general, maybe certain things like werewolves, whatever. You get the point. You will notice that people have certain particular preferences for that matter, okay? To be quite blunt and honest with you, okay? So the truth of the matter is, notice what type of themes people like, whether it's for animals or maybe even plants, or even another one, maybe could be even like elements like fire, wind, water, whatever, stuff like that, okay? Notice what people like specifically, and you will definitely do a lot better, okay? And the good news is that for this theme thing I'm referring to right now, and even a color thing, you can notice people will have specific ones that they like, okay, which I'll get to more later on. But the thing is, the good news is that once you figure it out, you will figure it out for good, okay? You don't have to worry about things changing, okay, which is good news, okay, for character design, okay, which, as I was saying before, I'll get to more later on towards the end of the video, okay? So anyway, now that I'm done talking about that, that's my second point, okay? So when you come up with themes, figure out what type of themes people like the most, and it will help, of course, determine how much people, of course, like your characters that you come up with, okay? So that's the second point, okay? The third point is similar to the second point, but it's different, but which for this one, is definitely still somewhat related, is that it comes down to, of course, how does the actual armor or the wear, whatever you like to say, okay, but let's just for simplicity's sakes say armor. How well do the people actually like the armor that is being used for it, okay? Because like anything in the world, okay, people have different preferences, okay? Some people might like this particular thing, some people might like this other particular thing, but when it comes to figuring out what most people like, which is of course what the main premise of this video is about, you have to, of course, figure out what type of armor do people like, okay? And that's the truth of the matter, okay? So figure out like what type of armor people want to wear. Like some people might like plated. You might know some people might prefer like plated armor, like broken up into sections. Some people might like armor a different way. There's different ways people like things, okay? To give an easy example, okay? There's different types of armor. There's like breastplate armor, where there's not really much of a texture to it, because the point of it is just to be a solid plate, just like Japanese samurai armor, which you just put like a design on it. Some types of armor like Roman armor, where it's broken up into sections. I think Greek armor is similar too, and there's other types of armor through obviously different cultures. So anyway, the point is figure out like the type of armor people like, okay? And that is the honest truth of the matter if you're creating a character design, okay? And that is the honest truth, okay? So now that I've mentioned that, now let me get back to the final point, okay? Which is, of course, the conclusion, okay? So when it comes to the conclusion for this video, what I just want to say is that even though this thing might be hard, and might come off as not just hard, but literally impossible sometimes to figure out what people like, the good news is that character design is one of those things that actually is a perfect example of how people never change, okay? Once you figure out what people like, in this regard, specifically to art, like what particular color scheme, what particular themes, like types of animals, and even what particular types of armor designs, all together to make characters look a certain way, you will quickly realize that people really never change, okay? Because the truth of the matter is, specifically using color scheme as an example, people don't change, okay, in general. And when it comes to figuring out what people like specifically for art, people never really change. If you look at the history of the world, certain particular color schemes are more liked than other ones, okay? When it comes to colors that you put together, okay? People never really truly change when it comes to this particular issue, because when you look at actually different cultures, and not just different cultures of the world, but even those cultures throughout time, you notice they tend to have a very similar color scheme to things, okay? When it comes to figuring out what people like, is something that they definitely did do very well, okay? For that matter, okay? For the time, okay? And when it comes to my specific recommendations, it is just to help you get a better idea of that, because there is a definitive way for art specifically for figuring out what people like and what people don't like. So if you get overwhelmed, just remember there is hope. And once you figure it out, you don't have to worry anymore, because you'll know it for good. And that is all I have to say for this video. So anyway, now that I'm done discussing this, I'm out. So bye.